Hi, everybody. Whew. We down to just a few days now. Down to just a few days to one of the most interesting elections in our lifetime, to say the least. An election where we have a racist billionaire running for president of the United States who's a nominee of a major party and his best friend. His best friend, Hillary Rodham Clinton, who's never seen a war that she didn't want to get involved in. His best friend who has the actual record of doing everything that the corporate media tells us that's bad about Donald Trump. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a couple things. I know a lot of you guys out there that are voting for Jill Stein are catching it today. A lot of you guys are catching it in your news feeds. You're catching it on the streets. A lot of you out there that are wearing Jill Stein t-shirts are catching it. You're catching it because of you're doing something different. You're doing something revolutionary. You're doing something against the status quo. And the cynics and the Hillary bots just don't understand it. They just can't fathom why you aren't falling in line behind the most corrupt politician to ever run for office, at least in modern times. They don't get it. They don't understand it. It makes them think that you're crazy. They think you're misinformed. They think that you're childish. They think you're the one that don't get it. And I'm here to tell you guys today, when they tell you that you don't get it, when they tell you that you're childish, when they tell you that you're naive, embrace it. Embrace that. Embrace that charge with a badge of honor. You earn it. You're doing something revolutionary. Because let me tell you something, guys. Let me tell you what the last naive, childish kids looks like. Those before us, MLK. Those that fought in the civil rights era. Those that fought for a civil rights bill. They were called naive, childish kids for going up to the status quo and saying, hell no, this is not justice. This is not what was meant for us. This is not the way. This is not what was destined for us, and we can do better, and we know we can do better. We know these things. So that's what the last naive little kids look like. They fought in the civil rights era. When they told that voting for African Americans was unrealistic, they didn't stop. They kept pushing forward. They kept pushing forward. Those before them fought to end slavery. They was told that, you're being unrealistic. You're being childish. You're being politically immature. You just don't get the process. We get the process. We understand the political process. We understand that it's corrupt and it needs to be changed. And if we never actually challenge it, it's going to continue to repeat the same steps year after the year, election cycle after election cycle. That's what they don't get. That's what they don't understand. But you know what they're doing here lately? They act like what they're doing is trying to touch a bunch of awake people. They're trying to make you fall back to sleep. And they're working hard. And they're doing overtime to do it too. They're going out of their way to try to make you fall back to sleep. They pushing sleeping pills on every corner to try to make you fall back to sleep. They're pushing these insane links on everything that you post. They posting all these things to try to get you to fall back in line, to get you to vote against your own values. They tell you that vote for Jill Stein is a wasted vote. But you and I both know that if we get Jill Stein to 5% of the vote, we're looking at $8 to $10 million in federal funding in 2020. Ballot access in 2020. A challenge to the two-party corrupt system that is bought and paid for. That's what happens if we get Jill Stein to 5% of the vote. Of course, we have to try to win it. But make no mistake about it. We get Jill Stein to 5% of the vote. Think about this, guys. You got a grocery store on one corner, right? You got one grocery store in the corner. And it's the only grocery store in the corner. The prices are going to be high. They're going to be jacked up, skyrocketing prices. Why? Because it has no competition. You put a third party in the mix, we change the world. Because then suddenly you got Republicans and Democrats all of a sudden now tripping over each other to try to get our vote. Because right now we're in a situation where they don't have to earn our vote. And Democrats are notorious for it. We're notorious for it. We tell the Democratic Party that we're going to vote blue no matter who. That's how we sound when we say it. We're going to vote blue no matter who. And as a result, they know they don't have to earn our vote because they already have it. So when you start to stand up for things like universal health care, getting money out of politics, guess who's behind closed doors with those nervous donors who think for a second that, your presidential candidate just for a second may actually try to tackle those issues. Those nervous donors that gives these candidates millions of dollars are behind closed doors with those nervous donors, trying to make sure that they're not going to actually do things like fight climate change. They're going to make sure that they're not going to try to take on the fossil fuel industry. They're going to make sure of those things. And the same people that are in front of us telling us that they're going to fight for climate change are behind closed doors with the fossil fuel industry saying, chill, chill, chill. I'm not really going to do anything on climate change. But what I will do is convince them that if they don't vote for me, my opponent will destroy the world. It's the most brilliant strategy ever used against us to keep a rigged system in place. Voting for the lesser of the two evils is the most brilliant strategy ever used against us to keep a rigged system in place. So when they tell you you're acting like kids, embrace it. I'm going to tell you someone else. Another kid decades ago. Another kid, Herbert Humphrey. They said, Republicans once said during the time when they was fighting for civil rights, because let's be clear. The Civil Rights Bill don't get done without white people stepping up and being just as frustrated as African Americans were. But Herbert Humphrey once said, to those that say that we are rushing the issue of civil rights, my friends, we are about 172 years too late. So when Hillary Rodham Clinton gets out there talking about, we got to accept incremental change. No, we don't. We're actually too far behind to start with. Free college, we're too late. Our private prison system needs to be abolished. The death penalty should be banned immediately because we can't trust the people that actually control it. We can't trust it. So as I know you guys out there, I know your friend list is getting smaller. I know you have a lot of people ridiculing you right now. But one thing you need to know, together, we're a bunch of badasses and we got each other. And together we're going to change the world. So don't worry about anyone dropping off your friend list or anyone ridiculing you because we are going to make history. We're going to show them that we don't have to be bound and handcuffed to two parties. We're going to do this. We're going to do this and we're going to do it with integrity. We don't have to rig elections to get it done. We don't have to talk about how bad the other candidate is. We can just talk about our policies. That's all we have to do. That's all we have to do. We're not in this situation of saying but Trump. Because I'm here to tell you, but Trump is not an economic plan. But Trump was not going to move the country forward. But Trump. You have to have more than but Trump. But Trump? Really? That's all you have? If you don't get serious about economics, everything that you believe in, everything that you want to happen is never going to happen. That's the truth. The politicians in Washington, all they talk about is cutting spending. Even the Democrats, to a point, they have been forced to talk about cutting spending or how they can reduce the deficit also, but they can do it without, hurting people. You can't reduce the deficit in a monetary sovereign nation without hurting people. It just doesn't happen. The Simpson-Bowles plan a few years ago, you guys know that plan? The plan that was supposed to cut, $4.1 trillion over 10 years from the national deficit? Think about this. You got to think about it from a different standpoint because people are only looking at it one way. They're only looking at one side of the balance of the spreadsheet. If someone comes up to you and say, I want to cut $4.1 trillion in government spending over 10 years, you're going to say, okay, sound like a good plan. But if you take that same actual plan and say, hey, I want to cut $4.1 trillion from non-government sector from the non-government sector surplus, you're going to say, well, why do you want to do that? Well, it's the same thing. Because basically what they're saying is they want to cut $4 trillion out of the economy. When they're talking about balancing their budget, they're talking about taking money out of the economy. That's what we have to understand. Listen, the way we get them to spend on the 99% is for an army of us to get educated on economics. I have to tell a friend. You have to tell a friend. We have to continue to become a student of economics. And when we go stand up for our proposals, when we contact our congressman, when we contact our senator, and we talk about the policy that we want to see in place, and they tell us that they can't afford it, we have to be able to check them on it. Because that's going to be the main driver. That's going to be their main excuse. Yeah, that sounds great, Kendall, but we just don't have the funds right now. No, we need to be able to tell them, no, don't give us that. We know where the money comes from. We can't accept that. We are a monetary sovereign nation. We are the creator of our currency. The issue of our currency, not the user. So don't tell us that we don't have the funds. That we don't want to hear. That we will not accept. And as As many of us come together, as many of us come together and put pressure on the elites, put pressure on our politicians, that we know the game. We know the game is rigged. We know that you guys are not playing with a full deck, or at least you're not showing us the full deck. We know these things. That's the only time that we're going to be able to actually push through real change. That's it. We're never going to be able to push through real change when we let the debt hawks control the conversation in Washington. When we let them do dumbass shit like sequester cuts to cut the deficit in a country that's monetary sovereign. When we let former President Bill Clinton brag about balancing the budget when all he really did was take money out of the economy, that's not acceptable. When we let them brag about how great the Clinton years were when all they did was slash welfare, slash things for the poor, in order to balance the budget for a country that's monetary sovereign, we cannot accept that. When Hillary Rodham Clinton wants to talk about how the crime bill is all of a sudden really not her fault now, but at the time she was actually taking credit for it, then actually no, we cannot accept that. We cannot accept someone as president that wants to that put more people in jail than anyone in the nation. Of course, now she didn't act on the policy, but she praised it and took credit for it. But now she wants to distance herself away from it. You can't have it both ways. Either you for the plan, you want to take credit for the crime bill, or you had nothing to do with it at all. But you can't have it both ways. Then they want us to accept the fact that the person that's taking millions of dollars from Wall Street is going to actually rein in Wall Street. Really? That's really what you guys want to sell us on? We can't have it both ways. A lot of the Hillbots are out there in droves now with their sleeping pills in their hands. They're trying to scare people. What we need you guys to do, what we all need to do, is make sure that they don't scare the people that are on the fence, that are voting for Jill Stein. But we got to make sure that there may be some people out there that are not as solid as us. We got to make sure that those people don't get scared into voting for Hillary Rodham Clinton. We got to make sure that they don't get bit by a zombie. And what I mean by bit by zombie, I mean we got to make sure that they don't fall in line behind Hillary Rodham Clinton and all her parrot friends. That's what we have to make sure of that. That's what we have to do. We have to make sure that we keep our core intact, that we stay true to our values and who we are. And remember what we're fighting for. We're fighting for a revolution. We're fighting for we're fighting for our future. Remember, those before us fought for things that they knew they wouldn't even get a chance to see. They risked their lives for civil rights. They risked their lives for freedom at a time when the laws was against them even having the ability to learn. The nation seeing them as 3/4 of a human being. They put their lives on the line at a time when no one was behind them. No one was behind them. So don't tell me that we can't push forward. Don't tell me what can't be done. After we tasted the bitter pill of civil war and it went through slavery, don't tell me what can't be done. It hasn't been that long ago when women didn't even have the right to vote. It hasn't been that long ago. Slavery, when you really think about it in its context, it hasn't been that long ago. It hasn't. My granddad was born in 1923. His mom was born in the late 1800s. Her mom definitely was a slave. Her sister was sold and never even seen her again. Listen, slavery isn't that long ago. As a nation, we have came far. As a nation, we have the blueprint of what we can do when we stand together. We have the blueprint of what we can do when we stick together and we believe in our ideas and we stick to the ideas in our heart. We prove that we are a people capable of doing big things. That's what we prove. We prove that everything that they said we couldn't do can be done. We put a man on the moon in 10 years. A man on the moon. The sky is no longer the limit. We have telescopes now that can see other galaxies. So we have to dream big. And when people tell us that we're dreaming too high, we have to always go back to those that came before us and tell them with conviction. Don't tell us what can't be done. Don't tell us that we can't afford programs in a country that's monetary sovereign. that's in debt denominated in his own currency. Don't tell us that BS. We're not listening to it. And another thing that we're seeing out here with these people that are trying to make people go back to their weight, they're trying to scare people with this whole argument that if Trump becomes president, he's going to take over the Supreme Court. Tell me what president and what democracy are they referring to? Are they talking about the American judicial system, or are they talking about a dictatorship? I don't know. I'm under the impression now that if Trump becomes president, he can just, I want him on the Supreme Court. I want her on the Supreme Court. It doesn't work like that, folks. You can't have it both ways. President Obama right now has a Supreme Court nominee that's still hung up, that has not been confirmed. I bring this up, and they like, well, you know what? Another thing that I'm getting sick and tired of, and I'm going to be very, very clear. Real progressives is voting for Dr. Jill Stein, period. We're not voting for Donald Trump. We're not in the tank for Donald Trump. Don't get offended just because we're not voting for Hillary Rodham Clinton. We're not voting for Hillary Rodham Clinton. That doesn't mean we're voting for Donald Trump. I'm not going to vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton or her best friend, Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm going to go there. While we see a bevy of people being duped by this nonsense, we're not going to do it. We're going to stay true to who we are. We're going to vote for Dr. Jill Stein. As we've said this many times before, Donald Trump presidency, I can't sleep well at night, Will. I'm the first to tell you. And I'm sure anybody here on this page can contest to that also. But a Hillary Rodham Clinton presidency, we can't sleep well with it at all. When I see Donald Trump, I see Hillary Clinton. When I see Hillary Clinton, I see Donald Trump. So the two really don't really matter to me. They don't. They don't matter. They're the same. They're not talking about the issues that we're talking about. They're not talking about that we're a nation that's monetary sovereign. They're talking about debts and deficits. One thing for sure, though, if Trump does some kind of way sneak in, we will have the vote blues at our disposal. And will they learn about monetary sovereign at that point in time? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Will they fight for a revolution then? Hell yeah. They will. They will take it to the streets if Donald Trump tries to take us to war. One thing is for sure, though. If Hillary Rodham Clinton becomes president, they will make excuses of why we should go to war. You will hear all types of rhetoric about how she has a well-thought-out plan, or how she's just a progressive that can get things done. We trust Hillary. That's what you'll hear. And trust in Hillary should not ever, ever, ever go in the same sentence. That's one of the most asinine statements that one could make. The fact that trust in Hillary can go in the same sentence. That's what we're hearing so far. So stay true to who you are. Vote green. It's healthier. It's healthier for the environment. It's healthier for our nation. Because what we're being presented with is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And if we continuously vote for them anyway, why would they ever change? Why? Hillary Rodham Clinton has said horrible things. No, Donald Trump has said horrible things. Hillary Rodham Clinton has actually done horrible things. Tell me one person that has died at the hands of Donald Trump's bad judgment. One person. How many people had Donald Trump drop the bomb on? How many people had Donald Trump sent to prison for a non-violent offense? I mean, you can argue that Hillary Clinton had nothing to do with that policy, but she took credit for it. So which one is it going to be? And I'm going to go here. Was it Donald Trump that said he was going to stay in the 2008 race was it Donald Trump that said he was going to stay in the 2008 race because, Robert Kennedy was assassinated in June? Or was that Hillary Rodham Clinton? Basically saying in so many words, I'm going to stay in the 2008 race just in case something terrible happens to then Senator Obama. I find that unacceptable. I find that egregious. And it should be called out on the carpet even to this day. That should never be swept under the rug. Never. That's worse than any Republican has ever said about President Obama. And we all can admit that there has been some racist things out there. Regardless of whether you agree with all of his policies or whether you agree with the president or not, we can all agree that Hillary Rodham Clinton, with that statement there that she made in 2008, was by far worse than any statement any Republican has ever made about him. Period. Period. Any statement. It goes on top of race. Period. When you make a comment that you're gonna stay in a race just in case that happens, that's worse than anything. Not to excuse none of what they've done, because they some racist rhetoric. Trust me. But what I'm saying is, she's not fit to be president of the United States. Donald Trump isn't fit to be president of the United States. Most likely, they're probably going to install Hillary Rodham Clinton. So, as Steve said earlier in his stream, there's nothing revolutionary about voting for someone who's going to be installed anyway. There's nothing. Patricia, yes, a lot of us forgot about that. And a lot of Hillary supporters forgot about that. And I'm going to use a slang word for a second. I'm here to give them some remembrance, since they want to have amnesia. That's my slang. But look, we have to continuously remind them. We can't let them forget. We have to stay focused, and continue to do what they said couldn't be done. What the cynics said couldn't be done. Cynicism didn't put a man on the moon. And cynicism didn't sign a civil rights bill. And cynicism will not bring about real change in this country. I'm Kendall Sullivan with Real Progressives, and I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day, guys. Peace, and I'm out.